spent the day at the Winthrop Market. It's here in the Tampa Bay area. This is the second time I've tried to, I've gone to a farmer's market. The first time I tried about a month and a half ago. No, I'm sorry, closer to two or 3 months ago. Had some issues with equipment and the canopy. Only was able to interview one person. Was much better prepared now. Got all that knowledge from kind of what I learned from there and took it here. I did end up hiring somebody to help me, Jordan Trowbridge, delightful, intelligent, and engaging young man, helped me through the day. I had him on the podcast as well. But Winthrop Market's a wonderful farmer's market. I had a couple hundred vendors, and it's in this Winthrop Square, and it's a great event. The booth is fairly inexpensive, but the goal, the mission, was to talk to people that I just wouldn't be able to talk to typically, and have great conversations. And I did just that. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. It was a hot day in Western Florida. Got up to about 90, but there was a slight breeze, and all the equipment worked well. We got solar panels and a charging unit to charge all the equipment. First gentleman, Bobby Perdomo, was a fascinating man. He came back from addiction and is bouncing back and helping others. Jack Tanzerite, assistant, his PA, works on the back. Very interesting discussion about myths and how to better help the back. Michael Johnson. There's a dying language called the Gullah. It's in the Low Country. For those of you who are not familiar with the great area of Charleston and Kiowa, that whole area of South Carolina, it's called Low Country. And there's a language there that's spoken only by 250,000 people. And it's still trying to live and preserve and move on. And Michael Johnson was talking about that. It's fascinating how these languages live on. The Smithsonian Institute has acknowledged it. Joel Chadnow, fascinating. Joel is a teacher in his core. He's very much into wellness. Fascinating stories. He teaches at the community college here, and his road to wellness, what it took to get him there, and why he was just a teacher. What happened in that pivot to make him just that. Ray Bazares was in the Navy, became a minister, a pastor, and some of his challenges there during that transition. He wasn't the best when he was in the military, and what he had to do to get over that to continue his life. Great conversation. Charles Jacobs, my goodness. When he was in the military, his troops wanted some kind of path to success, to life. So he made this line in transition, this whole complete system, this paradigm that he's created. And he walks people through it, and it's absolutely wonderful. I can't wait for you to. Russell Graham, fragrances. I know very little about this subject. I let others do that for me, but he is a professional at fragrances. He did serve time in the military. He's out, talks about discovering them, what it takes to do with them, how to apply them, how to use them. He's got great stories about that. My last conversation was with Jordan Trowbridge. He's got great things to say about the Florida Everglades, and he's into animal rescue. He loves reptiles. We talk about the python issue in Florida in the Everglades, and fascinating young man who's engaging, very, very smart, and boy, the world is his oyster. Great day at the Winthrop Market. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. I found myself at 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. I took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People ask me, how'd you do it? What's the secret? I need to lose weight. How'd you do it? How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. What should we know about the Florida Everglades, Jordan?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Joey.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the Everglades. It is the lifeblood of Florida. It means everything to Florida. If
Really?
the Everglades were to disappear, Florida would just cease to exist pretty
How
much.
so?
Everything revolves around the Everglades. All of our rain comes from the water cycle, where the water's supposed to flow down through the Everglades, and it feeds all the estuaries, and it brings the silt and all the nutrients properly down. And what's going on is a lot of the agriculture and stuff has diverted the water. Lake Okeechobee's a big one.
Yeah.
They're not sending it the natural way anymore. They're sending it out into the oceans.
Huh.
And it's one of the reasons why we keep getting the algae blooms around Florida, and it's killing off the wildlife and the sea life, because it's all these chemicals from big monoculture farms, and it's probably a better idea to send it through the Everglades to clean it all out. But
Interesting.
They just send it right out into the ocean, and it's not getting cleaned. The Everglades acts as a giant filter.
Really?
Yeah, with the river of grass and all the plants and the mangroves and everything, they just play such a vital role. And so we're going through a drought down in South Florida right now. And, there's a lot of different ideas of what's going on, but my personal opinion is the water cycle is not properly doing it because the water's not going down where it's supposed to.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, don't they realize the people in charge what's happening here? Why aren't they changing?
So this is another controversial topic. I mean, unfortunately, what's going on is a lot of developers are put in charge at FWC and in these places.
FWC?
Yeah, that's Florida Fish and Wildlife. And it's complicated because you definitely want to help the economy. You definitely want to build, but
Right.
we're destroying the natural ecosystems to do that, and it's not going to be worth it in the long run.
We were talking earlier about the pythons that have been introduced by man.
Yes, there's all kinds of invasive species in Florida, and most of them, honestly, all come from humans.
Right.
We love animals, most of us. Some of us aren't too responsible. Some people release them. Hurricanes come, take out facilities, and animals escape. The pet trade, it's another one. It's a complicated situation because, at least in my opinion, I love animals, and I love keeping them. I think it brings people just so much joy and happiness, and it's such a good hobby. Taking care of life is just wonderful. Builds character. So, there's all kinds of invasive species. The pythons are definitely a problem. I would say, honestly, though, is it gets blown out of proportion.
Does it?
Yeah, and I'd say PETA's part of the problem there. Because, in my opinion, invasive cats are one of the worst invasive species ever to exist in human history.
Interesting. Why?
They kill so many birds.
Yeah, birds. I've heard
birds and ground mammals and lizards and snakes. They just kill for fun, and people let them out into the wild, and then they have an unfair advantage because they get to remove themselves from the predators by coming back to humans to the safety. So, something like that is a bigger problem than the pythons, in my opinion. The pythons are a huge problem, definitely, and we're making strides to get rid of them. In my opinion, I don't think it's possible. The Everglades is so vast and so giant and so thick, you can't remove them all. It's going to be impossible. There's so many other invasives that cause problems. Some of the invasive cane toads or bufo toads, Cuban tree frogs, they're putting tremendous stress on the native amphibian
Really?
populations. Yeah, so, pythons get this bad rap. Same with green iguanas. They're up there for bad, but they're not the worst. And green iguanas, they don't eat any native wildlife. They could potentially hurt the burrowing owls by taking over their dens. But really the problem with the green iguanas, they banned those for people like me keeping unless you have a permit. They're hurting infrastructure by digging under sidewalks and buildings and stuff, and I understand that, but they eat a lot of plants, and theoretically they could have came here naturally from hurricanes getting blown in from South America and stuff, yeah. But the pythons, no, they're from Asia, Burma, so yeah, they're not supposed to be
No
here.
hurricanes going that far.
No.
And you were telling me some myths about pythons themselves. I was thinking they were venomous, but you're saying they're not.
No. So you definitely have to watch out for venomous snakes down here in Florida,
Yes.
but pythons are not venomous. I don't think a single person's died from a python in Florida.
Interesting.
I don't think anyone ever will die from a python in Florida. They want nothing to do with humans. I've gone searching for them myself and really never found any, and I've spent hours down there.
Really?
Yeah. Now they're all down in South Florida, Naples, in the South Everglades, Homestead, maybe up to Miami, but they're never gonna push north
Because
they're just so cold-blooded. The winter would kill them off.
I see.
Yeah.
The quote-unquote winter around here, not much, but to them it's a difference.
We got a little bit of cold this past
that's
year.
true.
But yes.
Yeah.
Same with the iguanas. They actually fall out of the trees.
Seen this. Yeah.
Yep. And FWC and the people, they'll tell you, don't pick them up and put them in your car because they'll wake up and go crazy. From personal experience, that's true. Be careful when you pick up the cold frozen iguanas. They come back to life.
Now with the iguanas, I'm told it's not the bite, but it's like all the bacteria that they have that can hurt.
It could, and that's a thing with any animal, really. I mean, I've been bitten by iguanas, and I haven't gotten infections. I've gotten bitten by some other lizards and gotten some infections.
Wow.
It depends. I mean, some of these animals are living in some drainage ditches, drainage canals. Who knows what's in there? So, yep.
Why reptiles, Jordan?
I've just, I moved around a lot as a kid, and I probably lived in Florida when I was 4 to 6, and I just fell in love.
Really?
My parents couldn't get me inside. I was in the creeks. I was catching everything I could find, bringing home whatever I could find. They were always worried I would get killed by an alligator or bitten by a venomous snake because I'd just grab them. One funny story, I got grounded for months, but I convinced a neighbor of mine when we were like 4 years old. We had this big pond in the back of our community. Signs everywhere, don't swim, there's gators. I convinced the neighbor to swim across the pond with me, get to the island on the other side. Oh man, we got in big trouble, but we survived,
The alligators will leave you alone too, right?
No, you gotta watch out for the alligators. Yeah. If there's a water in Florida, even if it's a puddle, assume there's alligators.
Is that
in
right?
there.
Do they attack?
They will, yes. So they are apex predators. Everything is food to them. Everything. And that's just their natural way of life. Now, humans, not really. And, they are scared of humans. Unfortunately, some people feed them or, and that leads them to associate humans with food, and that's where problems arise. Now, what I would suggest is a lot of people with dogs, don't walk your dog near water in Florida. You got to be really careful. A lot of people end up losing dogs, losing their own life because they're walking right next to the water. Alligator thinks the dog's food.
The chicken,
or a pig or something, and it comes out, and then the owners, they love their animals, they're going to try and help, and then that's what happened. Unfortunately, there's actually just an alligator incident where an older woman, I think she was kayaking in the Everglades, and it was so dry, she went over a giant 11-foot alligator, and it got scared and thrashed and flipped the kayak, and she ended up losing her life.
Whoa.
Now, terribly tragic, terribly tragic. But unfortunately, FWC has a policy where they have to kill that alligator then. Right. Any death from a alligator, and they have to kill it. Now, this alligator was in its native home. Right. It was in the Everglades. It didn't do anything wrong. It's most of the time human causes that lead to the death of these animals, and they apparently.
Welcome, I'm Joey Pinz, and I'm thrilled to guide you through this course. Discipline for Greatness, unlocking your best self in 7 days. Whether you're here to take the first step toward a better you or looking to build on the momentum you already have, you're in the right place. This course is about real change, not fluff. Let's get started. This course is based on my book, Discipline for Greatness, 5 Steps to Success and Happiness. It's the product of decades of experience, and more importantly, conversations with hundreds of incredible people on the podcast. In the next 7 days, we'll focus on building purpose-driven habits, creating a balance in every part of your life, and activating the full power of discipline. You'll walk away with more clarity, more control, and real confidence. This course is based on my book, Discipline for Greatness, 5 Simple Steps to Success and Happiness. It's the product of decades of experience, and more importantly, conversations with hundreds of incredible people on my podcast. In the next 7 days, we'll focus on building purpose-driven habits, creating balance in every part of your life, and activating the full power of discipline. You'll walk away with more clarity, more control, and real confidence. Here's what to expect. The course runs for 7 days and 2 short episodes each day, 10 to 15 minutes max. It's fast, focused, and meant to drive real transformation. Each day builds on the last, so grow consistently. We've packed in reflection prompts, guest stories, and short quiz at the end of each day to help lock in the learning. Make sure you have your companion workbook ready. It's your space to journal, reflect, and take action. This just isn't information, it's transformation. You're going to be challenged, you're going to be supported. Most of all, you're going to be inspired. Discipline isn't about restriction, it's about unlocking potential. My job is to help you discover yours. Now you might be wondering, why did I create this course? Because I know what it's like to want more from life and not know where to start. How is this different from other content? Because this isn't about hustle, it's about harmony. What if I fall behind? No problem. It's designed for your flexibility. Do you need to read the book first? Nope. But if you do later, it'll reinforce everything here. And how do you get the most out of the course? Stay engaged, use the workbook, reflect, commit. And finally, what if you don't see results right away? Be patient. Transformation takes time, but every small step counts. You've got everything you need to start strong. So take a deep breath, shake off the noise, and let's get started. Your best self is just 7 days away.
Apparently, I think they went out and killed 2 11-foot alligators, and I don't even know if they got the right one. It's just so tragic all around because animals lose their life, and humans are way more important than animals. Yes. I have to make that very clear. They are always more important, but you know, animals are super important too, and they play a vital role for humans, even snakes, right? People don't like snakes, but they're a silent guardian to humans.
Wow.
There's rodents, there's rats that carry diseases, and these snakes will eat those infected animals and get that away. They're helping protect us. And if you're a gardener like me, you want them around for pest control.
Okay, so let's go down the list of animals you have, Jordan.
It's I've been rescuing animals for a while now. It started in college. The people all knew that I loved animals, and my first one was a bunny rabbit. From a girl. She got caught with it on campus, wasn't allowed to have it. I was on campus too, wasn't allowed to have it, but I took the risk, and you know, it made it. I got in trouble a little bit, but that was my first rescue, and after that I've been collecting snakes. I have around 10 snakes, mostly ball pythons, red-tailed boas. I've had emerald tree boas. I've had all kinds of things. I'm not officially a permitted rescue, but I'm just doing my part, taking in unwanted animals, sick animals. Now, most of the time, I'm lucky. I haven't gotten too many sick animals. I have. Most of the time, it's just unwanted pets.
I see.
A lot of these animals, they live for a long time, and people don't do the proper research. They like it for a while, and then they get bored. Life happens, things happen, and then resources like me are available. Don't release your animals into the Everglades. Some people do that, and then people like me who want to keep them get in trouble. They're trying to ban all kinds of animals, and it's just sad, you know. But yeah, a lot of snakes, lizards. I've got veiled chameleons from Yemen. They're an invasive species in Florida. I got a Mexican spiny-tailed iguana, an invasive species from Mexico. Used to have a green iguana, but that's not allowed anymore. Savannah monitors, they're from Africa.
A monitor?
Monitor lizards are probably one of my favorite lizard species. They are very large and very intelligent.
So large, 5 feet, 4 feet?
They can get, my one right now is about 4 feet long, tail to head. Hopefully 6 feet. And I've always wanted
the size of an alligator.
Yes, exactly right. They're mini alligators pretty much. And super intelligent.
Really?
Yes. That you can see in the eyes, the way they have a Jacobson's organ inside their mouth. They smell the air, and then with their tongue, and then it comes back into their mouth and connects to the Jacobson organ on the top of their mouth, and it shows them their environment.
Interesting.
And then they can pick up on scents or pheromones and head in that direction.
Wow.
Now, none of those are native to Florida, but
you tell me you feed these things, a rabbit only once a month?
Yeah, my big red-tailed boa, it's about 9 feet long. It needs a rabbit once a month. Now, finding that's a little hard. I still go to the pet store and get a jumbo rat, but that only lasts a week for some of these giant snakes. For a ball python, a rat's good, but for a giant snake, And that's the thing about the Burmese pythons. You know, they're giant. They get giant, so they're gonna eat bigger and bigger things like alligators, like crocodiles, which are endangered. You know, so it's all a matter of that. But yeah, feeding the animals, it can be a little expensive. Some people don't like that part, but it is nature. They have to eat, you know, and they only eat meat. You can't get a snake to eat plants. It doesn't work.
Right. There was a series on for a while that got real popular, and then he went to jail. He was here in Florida. What was his name?
Are you talking about Joe Exotic?
Joe Exotic. Yeah.
Joe Exotic. Yeah, maybe I'll be Tro Exotic one day. But no, I don't think he was here. Carol Baskin was here.
Carol Baskin. Oh, he wasn't in Florida?
He was in Ohio before he went to jail.
I see.
He had tigers, and I think he had snakes and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love a tiger one day, or a big cat, maybe a lion. But I just love animals. But
yeah, yes, you do.
he was an interesting guy.
Very
He had some, you know. There's a documentary on Netflix you can watch.
Yeah, but that's what I said. It was popular. I don't know, around COVID time.
Yes.
5 years.
And that's one of those stories that's just crazy. So it makes good television.
And so your advice to those people that want to have a reptile as a snake, is a reptile as a pet, is what?
Absolutely. With any animal that you're going to get, do the research, right? Know what you have to do. Know the proper ways to take care of these animals. Don't go into it blind. It's the same with a dog. You have to consider the vet fees. You have to consider, you know, all kinds of things. Feeding them, and can you handle depending on what you have. For reptiles, it's bugs. It's feeding snakes is rats, you know. I mean, most people don't like that. So you have to take all these things into consideration and really do your research. So that's the most important thing. As keepers, we really need to make sure that we're focusing on the needs of the animal. You know, as much as we want them, we have to make sure that we're properly giving these animals a good life, you know. And that is one thing I do love about the pet trade, is it's creating a ton of animals so you really can enjoy it. And it will even help bring some animals that are struggling back. An example of that would be crested geckos. It's a big popular gecko in the pet trade. They're in Caledonia, I think. They were really struggling in the wild until they came into the pet trade, and now they're one of the most popular animals. They'll never go extinct because so many people breed them. So there's pros and cons of everything, you know?
But it's a great, and you bring a point about a vet. So if it gets sick, can you bring it to only veterinarians, excuse me, they specialize in reptiles?
There's specialized vets for reptiles and really anything, honestly. But yeah, maybe that's a good idea to look around your community and make sure you have a vet available just in case, you know?
Yeah. I travel a lot, Jordan, so, you know, I didn't get pets, you know, after I had kids, and I always admired my friends that had them because they have so much affection, and you get to... You just tell me before, though, that you have to... Some of the pets are nocturnal, and so you can only visit them at night.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, I just love it, you know. There are definitely pets that help with travel, and that's one of the reasons I actually like reptiles so much, is they give you a little bit of space. It's not a dog. A dog needs to be cared for every day. It needs to be let out. But you can feed a snake once a month, and it's totally fine. So you can still travel. I mean, I have too many animals to really take off a long time, and I have a cat and chickens. But, you know, to travel and stuff, having pets is too tough.
You can't do it. So you've heard my story, Jordan. I started my business, gained a bunch of weight. Doctor says if I don't lose it, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So I lost about 120 pounds. People ask me how. I always say discipline. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Discipline is incredibly important for anything you do in life. I mean, if you're not disciplined, what are you going to do? You're going to let your animals starve? Are you not going to clean? Are you not going to put in the work for them? You really need to make sure that you get what you need to do done. And that's where discipline comes in for any aspect of your life. Without discipline, I mean, you know this, Joe, you're not going to get very far.
That's right.
You struggle.
Yeah.
And discipline's hard. It takes hard work. You have to stay focused. Something that's really great, I would say, and I'd probably ask you, is having friends, accountability partners, right? Did that come into play in your life?
It has, but when I lost the weight, I didn't tell anybody. I just wanted this to be by myself. I didn't want anybody to know. I just wanted to do it just for me. But in a lot of other respects, it has. But accountability plays a huge role in a lot of success.
Yes.
Yeah. What motivates you now, Jordan?
What motivates me? Let me tell you, I mean, I don't think we're doing the best job at cohabitating with nature.
We, meaning society.
Humanity's
Americans.
society,
I see.
yeah. I think nature is so beneficial to humans, and we take it for granted. You know, I think one thing that I'm really passionate about is lawns. Americans especially, they love their manicured lawn.
Yeah.
And let me tell you that is just terrible for native wildlife. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't bring any animals in. Get rid of your lawn, plant native trees, native plants. Bring the nature in. It'll improve your life. I'm telling you. You'll get the butterfly. There's so many things that are struggling. So many animals that are struggling. Like I said, cats. They're hurting birds. All the chemicals we spray, all the pesticides we spray. It's hurting the fish. It's hurting the amphibians. It's hurting the butterflies, the monarch butterflies. Bees, exactly. Now, let me tell you, everyone focuses on the bees. They're European honeybees. They're not native. The native pollinators are what are really struggling. Yeah, we can bring in the honeybees, and I love honeybees. I love fresh honey. Mad respect to all the people who make the honey. Delicious, healthy, but there's so many other things that pollinate. I don't know. Most people don't even know that mosquitoes pollinate.
Do they really?
Yes. Mosquitoes play a role in the environment. As much as I wish I could snap my finger, especially in Florida, and the mosquitoes would just disappear, they play an important role in pollinate, and actually only the females bite because they need the blood because they're reproducing. So it's interesting.
Your view on zoos, we talked about this?
Yes, zoos are incredible, right? And here's the thing, it is kind of sad for animals to be, locked up in a zoo, right? If you really think about it, it's kind of sad. But these animals, they're playing such an important role, even like SeaWorld too, and orcas. So let's use orcas as an example, because that's probably the saddest one ever. Orcas, I mean, a tiny swimming pool for a creature that has the whole sea. I mean, and it's an intelligent creature. So it's incredibly sad for the animal, and I 100% understand that. But the impact it has on humanity, when you see something firsthand and you see it with your eyes, not just read about it in a book or watch a video. If you're in the splash zone, which I was when I was a kid, it changes your life. You care. You want to donate. You want to help. You want them to survive. You want them to thrive in nature. So they are ambassadors, and they're taking one for the team is what it really is. And I mean, hopefully the zoos, hopefully the places give them the best possible life they can.
Right.
And most do. Zoos are fantastic, and they do a lot of research.
So given your motivation of how we can work better with our animal friends, how do you measure success, Jordan?
How do I measure success? That's a great question. This world is big and complicated, so the way I think I measure success is what can I do to do better? How can I improve? There's certain things that you can worry about, you can stress about, climate change, things like this, which are problems, but then there's things you can actually do. Pick up trash, pick up plastic that you see on the ground. Don't spray chemicals in your yard, do your part. Go to the beach and get a bag and just clean up a little bit. Just do something and talk to your friends about it and enjoy the nature and just think about ways that you can improve, And one of the best things you can do is be kind to everyone.
Yeah.
And be kind to animals and think about them.
Jordan, I really admire what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for spending the day with me. It's been a great pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you, Joey. It's been incredible.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Disciplined Conversations.